Hello guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm Gauto Brian, as you know, football license agent. So I'm going to be talking about how to pass the FIFA exam, part 2 of this video. So the exam will be coming up in few months, and I know some of you guys are trying to prepare, and some of you guys are also confused on what to do. I've received some few questions, and I'm going to be answering most of those questions, and I'm going to talk about how you can prepare for the exam. So first, let's start again. But do you know, as I said last time in the first part of this video, if you have not watched it, part 1 of this video, it was the exam actually is quite tricky, tough, and also requires structural approach. So normally when preparing for the exam, if you just feel like you're just going to read the 600, close to 700 pages, it's going to be hard for you. So you need a structural approach to try to prepare for the exam. One thing I noticed also about the exam is that there are people forming groups to read, and then they ask questions among themselves. But yes, still you still need a structural approach, which I'm going to give you guys a lot of means to prepare for the exam. So tip number 1 for the structures. Okay, so first you have to know that the exam is multiple choice questions. You have to be aware of that, and inside those multiple choice questions, you can receive questions that are, for example, like the way the structure of the exam is set is you receive questions that they can be 4 questions. They can give you, let's take, for example, a question, and inside that question, they will give you 4 multiple answers. 3 of those answers might be right, or 2 might be right, or 1 might be right. But you have to make sure, for you to get 1 question right, you have to pick all the right answers, because if you fail one of them, you have completely failed all the particular question. So you have to make sure you focus and also try to make the right decisions. And it's an exam that requires a lot of concentration, because just a little thing can fail you. And we all know the rules of FIFA has changed, and also the exam will be hosted once a year. So if you fail the exam, then you come and write again next year, so which is quite far. So that's why I always advise people, if you have a means to invest and try to pass this exam, you better do so, because it's a life-changing situation. When you pass the FIFA Agent exam, you can manage any player. Imagine you being the agent of Ronaldo, or the agent of whosoever player you might be. But yes, those things are possible. So, and for those working in sports, it's quite nice if you let's say, take for example, if you pass the exam, because you can manage any kind of player that you get in contact with. So, but first, let's continue. That's what we'll make another video for that one. But for now, let's talk about how and the structure to pass the exam. So, as I said, there are multiple choices that you have to make the right decision. And then the second thing that we have to look here is the exam is being structured in a particular way. So 100% inside the exam, there are 20 multiple choice questions, and inside those 20 multiple choice questions, you have to pass 15. So you have room to fail only 5. That's the next thing that you have to be aware. So you must have 75% pass rate to be able to pass the exam. So that's another thing you have to be aware, that is also hard to do. Then the next thing you have to also be aware is you have to know that the exam has a specific topics come more than others. Let's take, for example, I'll break it down to you guys. So the football agent regulations has 40% of the questions. So 40% of the question, for example, will come under like football agent regulations. Then the next thing you have to also know is 30% will come under the RSTP. That is the RSTP, which is also the largest topic at the, for in the book or the study materials when preparing, which is the regulation and the status of transfer of players, RSTP. So these two topics cover 70% of the exam, which then the rest questions come randomly from any place. But you have to be aware that these two topics, you have to read them a lot and study. That's why I say I'm going to give you a method on how you prepare for the exam. So when you know already that 70%, when you know already that 70%, you can read two particular chapters of the book of the study materials very well to try to master everything there so that I can get 70%. That's already very good, that you're already more than halfway there if you can master the RSTP and the football agent regulation, which means you're already more than halfway there to the exam. To pass the exam. Then you have to now start reading the definitions or other most getting yourself familiar with the book. But it doesn't also end there, because this book is about 680 pages to 700 pages, if we let's say 680 pages, and the exam is just 1 hour, which means when you get your question paper on the table and you make a mistake, or maybe you see the first question is not right, you might have some panic, because 1 hour is too small for the exam, because the exam is more difficult because of the time management. 1 hour is too small. So how do you prepare for the time? You have to structure yourself that each question has maximum 3 minutes. So what the best way we always study for the exam, or people pass the exam, are you first go through the questions you know already and try to answer them as quick as possible. Then you come back. The ones you have not answered, you take your time now and start going through it again. So let's take, for example, if the exam started, because it's an open book exam, you're going to have your study material closer to you that you can refer the exam. Refer your answers or check the answers. But because you don't have any time, that's why it's short. You end up not even looking the study materials. So the first thing I'll advise is when writing the exam, you try to do as much as possible, answer as much as possible, the one that you know that you're sure that is correct. Then next, you start referring to those study materials. The study material. But to refer to the study material, because it's a very big book. Let's take, for example, if they ask you about RSTP, regulation and the status of transfer of players. You don't know where RSTP is. But for me, because I study, I already know that it can be in page 150. From the RSTP on the August edition is from 150 to 250 something, or 252, if I'm precise. So when I got any question on RSTP, I already know that, okay, it's between this page. And because I was also familiar with the material, the study, I went already there, try to check, because I knew most of the things, because I've been reading it for months. So this is how you have to try to structure yourself for the exam. Okay, but saying all this, there's also an easy way for me that I will try to teach you guys, because I'll be organizing some classes also that I'll put my email. Then we'll do some Zoom calls. For those who are interested to do some Zoom calls, we're going to do that so that you can get your pass rate very high and easy. So let's take, for example, I'll be leaving my details, and then when the amount of numbers are already that complete, or we have enough numbers, or many, then we can start screening. So be early to try to put or register or send your information by my email, so that when we have let's say the first 10 people, how many people we can have for the group. We can start to study and prepare, and I start to show you guys tips. So it's going to cost, but it's worth it, because when you're an agent, you are having a life-saving, a life-changing job, which is a very nice job for those who want to work in sport. Imagine managing players who are playing professionals, and then you are managing them. It's a luxury job if you handle it well, because you get to travel, enter planes, and travel around the world, and watching your players, sitting on VIP seats or whatever thing you might want to do, just to watch the player. But anyways, before talking about that part, you have to do the work. You have to do the work first here. So before I go, I will try to look at that. So that's the structure. So before I go, I will try to give an example. So I will try to look at examples. I will look at some structural questions, because I prepared some questions also, how the questions usually come. And normally during the mock questions, that they put on the FIFA platform are always easy. But when you come now to the questions on the exam days, they are more difficult. The questions are more twisted. Yeah, so they don't give you the question directly. They try to make the question so that you think before answering. And there also it takes your time, because you don't have enough time. So we're going to be looking at some questions that you are going to try to prepare, and how that you are going to use to prepare. But I'm just going to give few questions, because I will be touching on this because I'm also writing an ebook on this, and I'll also inform you guys when the ebook is out, because it's almost ready. The ebook will be about the structure, how to pass this exam, and if you read the ebook, I'm also sure you get maybe more closer to passing it easily. So I will try to help you guys and help you guys with all these things. But first, let's look at some few questions here, that how the questions usually come. So let's take, for example, a question like question one. I will just read the question here. They say, the question goes, players who do not speak out against abuse may be afraid / concern, and then they give, this is just a straight question. Then they said, okay, select one or more. So this under safeguard. This topic is under safeguard. So they say they will the options they gave are, they will not be financially compensated compensated in exchange for their reporting. So that was one. And C, they and their family may suffer from negative repercussions. And D, nobody will believe them. So this question is, for example, young teenagers or children who are scared not to speak out against abuse. What is an abuse? An abuse might be sexual harassment or whatsoever. They're talking of like players. Yeah, it might be any kind of abuse that they are talking about here. Then they say, the players who are in this situation, why are they scared not to speak out? So, and then they gave these options. So A was, they would not be financially compensated in exchange for their reporting, which is not. And then they say B, they might get their coach or abuser into trouble. So that is one correct answer there. They are scared because they might get their coach or the abuser into trouble, so they prefer to sit silent. C, they and their family may suffer from negative repercussions. Yes, which is also another option, because they are scared that maybe the abuser may turn to their family, so they prefer to stay silent. And then D, nobody will believe them, which is also another option. So this question, the answer is B, C, and D. So let's take, for example, as I said earlier, if you go now to these answers and go and put C and D, and then you don't put B, which was also one of the correct answers, you failed this question one completely. So this is how the exam work. So you have to be very, very careful and observing, focus and trying to look everything. So let's look another question. Question 2. This is a past question. Actually, this is a past question that came already, that have been used in the exam. So on 22 of October 2023, the FIFA Football Tribunal rendered a decision under which it ordered Agent M to pay a player the amount of 150,000 US dollars as compensation for breach of contract. Full stop. On 5th March 2024, the amount due had still not been paid. In this context, which of the following causes of action is available to the player? Select one. So this question, they just said select just one question, select just one answer. So, and then, okay, these are the answers they gave. The player may launch a complaint before the FIFA Independent Disciplinary Committee to enforce payment. That's A. And then B, the player may ask the FIFA Football Tribunal to order the agent to pay interest of 18% per annum on the amount owed. C, the player may lodge a complaint before the FIFA Dispute Resolution Chamber to enforce payment. D, the player may lodge a complaint before the FIFA Football Tribunal to enforce payment. So the answer is A. The player may lodge a complaint before the FIFA Independent Disciplinary Committee to enforce payment. So that's the answer. So you see, I am answering these questions because I've read and I've passed this and I know a lot of these questions. So question 3 of this is, I'm going to give we're going to answer a few more questions. So let's look for another question, which is, okay. So Anna is a 22-year-old Croatian professional football player whom you represented in a transfer to a Brazilian team a few months ago. She suddenly returns to Croatia, although her contract was for 1 season, and complains about the poor treatment she received at the Brazilian club. What action should you take? So again, I read the question. Anna is a 22-year-old Croatian football professional player whom you represented in a transfer to a Brazilian team. So she's someone from Croatia who is playing in a Brazilian team a few months ago. So she suddenly returns to Croatia, although her contract was for 1 season, and complains about the poor treatment she received at the Brazilian club. So you're the agent. So I interpret it. So this is also one thing now for questions. Before you read a question, another thing also is that you have to know how to interpret that question. So this is Anna is a 22-year-old girl that is a professional football player from Croatia, by nationality, who is having a football contract with a team in Brazil. But due to the poor treatment, she returns back to Croatia without telling the agent and coming to complaining to the agent about the poor treatment. So the question is, what action should you take, you as the agent? So the questions are, the answers are: A, you should report this safeguarding concern to the safeguarding officer / lead at the Brazilian FA, or failing that to FIFA, or filing that to FIFA via its online reporting platform. So that's A, that you have to report this to the Brazilian FA of sending an information to FIFA. Then answer B was, you have no responsibility towards Anna as she is no longer your client. Okay. C, this represents a safeguarding concern, so you should advise and potentially help Anna to contact the safeguarding lead at her national association. and D, this is a sensitive situation. You should not get involved. So the answers are A and C. First, the first one was A, which it was, you should report this safeguarding consent to the safeguarding officer at the Brazilian FA, and also send information about this to the report about this on the FIFA platform. And then the other answer was C. This represents a safeguarding consent, so you should advise and potentially help Anna to contact contact the safeguarding lead at her national association. So there are more of these kind of questions that you have to read. So this is almost like close. I have 20 questions in front of me, but we're not going to do all that for the sake of this video. I'm going to end here. But the main thing is that I wanted to also give you some of these questions so that you see that on the mock questions, it's quite maybe easy, but when you come to the questions on the exam days, they are quite like trickish also. And bear in mind that you don't have so much time about these questions to answer this question. That's why I say it's quite something that you have to be fast about it. So guys, that was it. So I will leave details for those who want to prepare for the exam. Contact me by email. I'm going to tell you how we get a Zoom call, and I'm going to organize some classes for this. So the exam, if you start preparing earlier, then you can pass early, you can pass easily. So we're going to be doing some Zoom calls. The thing is, we do Zoom calls for the exam, and then I try to teach you guys with the materials I've prepared so that you guys can pass the exam with the knowledge I've got and the knowledge that I used in also passing the exam. So, but anyways, that was it. I'm going to leave all information on the description of this video, how to contact and how to register for the extra courses that I will help you guys for the exam. So do leave any questions if you have about the exam. Comment, like, and also if you have any thing that you think you want to learn or you want to know more, drop also a question on it. If it's any topic on the FIFA agent or on the FIFA exam, drop any topic and we're going to look into that. So guys, take care and talk to you next time. See you. It was nice chatting to you guys. Ciao. See you. Peace.